All right, so for 6C and 6D, we're going to continue with our percents and proportions. And particularly, we're going to continue working with our tip and bill proportion. Okay, so as you recall from last week when we were talking about tip and bill, we were using a 20% tip. And that's still nowadays what we want to be using. Okay, and then remember our proportion that we used, I'm going to box that in, was that tip over bill equals the percent over 100. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our data that you found and some new data and put it into our chart and then come up with a graph. And then we'll do some analyzing of that afterwards. Okay. So what we need to first start with is our units and the expression. And I need everybody really paying attention to this because this was one of the weakest points on our test from last week, which I do have those and I'll upload those on Plus Portal or tell you guys your grades towards the end of class, okay? But this was the weakest area. So again, your focus should be right now on the screen and not in any other work. Because I keep saying this to a few people and then you continue to write the wrong answers, okay? So what does unit mean in general? Not necessarily for this problem, but what does it mean when I ask for the unit?
Like what it's measured in.
Exactly, Tim. Great. What's it measured in? So for example, our first quantity is a bill. What do we measure our bills in? Centimeters? Feet? Dollars, exactly. So our unit is dollars, and you can start writing here. Okay, so our unit is exactly what Tim said, what it's measured in. How about tip? How do I measure a tip? Dollars as well. Now, expression, okay? The first column for expression, folks, is always going to be the expression of X. The second one is not just going to be Y. It's going to be in terms of X. So what is this going to be? It's going to be that we're doing 20% or 20 over 100 X. Last week we were using proportions with like defective items. It was like 7 out of 20. So we did 7 out of 20X. Or we had marbles, like 3 out of 5X, that type of a thing. This case, it's a 20% tip. So how do I represent 20% as a fraction? 20 over 100. Okay. Most of the data has been filled in from our calculations from last week, but we have 2 to do. And the first one is if my bill is 20, that means the X is 20. So how would I solve for that missing column? We could use the expression or we could use our percent, right? It's saying that bill is 20, so 20 goes on the bottom. We don't know the tip, so I'm going to call that Y, right? Our tip is in the Y column. Our percent is 20 over 100. And we can solve that. So I cross multiply, I get 100Y equals 400, right? And then divide through and Y equals 4. So my tip is $4. Remember guys, tip.
We just do the same thing, but like with Y.
I'm just using Y because we were looking for tip and tip is in like the Y column, right? Bill is our X, tip is, if I go back to my columns. But the other, I don't know just what happened here. What can you guys see right now? Oh, you can? Good. Okay, it's completely blue. Hold on a second because I can't see anything. Okay, hopefully that's still.
I don't think we can see anything moving on it.
Perfect. Nothing's moving now. Okay. So the other way we can do this, and I'm going to erase something just so that I have room, and then I will come back to that, is to use the expression that we came up with of 20 over 100. If I know that X in this case is 20, I would have that 20 over 100 times 20. Jordan, can you mute yourself? We're just echoing. Thanks. And so what does that give me? That's 20 over 1, which is 400 over 100. And 400 over 100 is 4. There's that same 4. Okay, so you have multiple ways to do that. The second one we're looking for is the tip is 9. So remember, tip is in that y column. So they're telling me y is 9, and we have to go find the bill. Well, if I use the proportion that I boxed in, tip is up top. We know 9 is up top. Bill is on the bottom. Bill is in the x column, so I'm leaving that as x equals, we're dealing with 20%, so 20 over 100. Make sure we're writing, guys, right? Everybody should be writing and filling this in. And now I cross multiply, so I get 20x equals 900, and then divide by 20. And x equals, what do we get?
Isn't that y equals?
X equals this time because we're looking for the bill. The first time we were looking for the tip, which is in the y column. This time we're looking for the bill, which is in the x column. And 900 divided by 20 is 45.
Yeah, 45.
So the bill is 45. Remember, the bill will be more than the tip, right? We don't pay more on a tip than the actual bill. Okay, everybody make sure you have that chart filled out correctly, right? If that chart is not filled out correctly, then the rest of your packet is going to be incorrect because we have to graph this. Okay, I'm going to have everybody right now practice filling in number 2. So there are 8 boxes. Everybody go ahead, fill out those 8 boxes, and then stop, because if they're wrong, obviously the rest will be wrong, okay? So I'm going to give you guys like 3 minutes. Go for it. Fill out all of number 2. Do we need more time? Okay, let's see how we did then. So the first part. This is really important that we get this first part right, where it says variable quantity. Am I just writing X and Y?
No, bill and tip.
No, right? We are never just saying X and Y. X and Y can be used for any type of problem in this world. We are specific about this piece of paper. And what are we describing? And exactly. Look at right here, guys, right? It gave you in the chart up on number 1, it says quantity name, and it gave you bill and tip. So just like Gabe said, when I go down to this chart and it says quantity, I'm going to copy those. And the first one that was written was bill, so I better put bill first here. And the second one in my chart up above on number 1 was tip. So tip is going to come second. Is that clear to everybody? Make sure you have that. Okay, now I'm counting on everybody to always have lower bounds, right? What do we have for those? Big old zeros, okay? Upper bound. Now for upper bound for bill, go look at the bill column. The highest number there is 60. For tip column, go look at the tip column. And that's in order too. The highest is 12. Now, how do I find the intervals? I'd say 98% of you are fine with this now. We take that highest bound, right, upper, and divide it by our number of grid lines on our chart, which continue to be 20. So 60 divided by 20 is nice. It comes out as an integer, 3. So we can count by 3s. Did anyone choose to use a different interval?
I chose 5.
Okay, I wouldn't mark you off for that. Okay, but we can just use 3 because it came out nice and neat like that. But if you chose 5, it's okay. Now for tip, we do the same thing. Upper bound divided by 20. And 12 divided by 20 gives me 0.6. Is that a nice one? No. So I do not, again, most of you have been solid with this, but I do not put in 0.6 in my chart. I round that. I always round up. So what should I round 0.6 to? 1, exactly. Any questions with that? Okay, for 75% of you, I know this is so redundant, but it can't hurt. And it certainly needs everybody to be listening right now. Everybody listening? Okay. Notice all of the patterns here. In my number 1, the first column was X, the second was Y. On number 2, the first thing is X, the second is Y. Now when I go do my graph, folks, who can tell me where the X goes? On the bottom or up and down on the side?
Bottom.
Bottom. So X is on the bottom. What that means is you need to take that first column and put it there, which is Bill. I had a lot of folks on last week's test flip-flop those. So you put your Y variable on the x-axis. We don't want to do that. We need to be consistent, okay? Now, the other thing we need to be consistent about is what goes in parentheses. What goes in parentheses is that unit, the way we measure Bill. How do I measure Bill, did we say? By inches? By centimeters? By what? Dollars. So Bill in dollars is on the bottom, and then my Y variable, which we chose as tip, is up and down. And again, we measure that with dollars. So everything is consistent. Now I'm going to let you fill this out, but what did we say we're going to count by for Bill? What interval did we choose?
3.
3s. So I start with 0, 3, 6, 9, etc. And for tip, we said we're going to count by 1. So everybody go ahead, and I want you to not only label this, but then go ahead and from number 1, where the table was, start plotting your points. We should have a total of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7 points, okay? So everybody finish labeling the graph and then plot all 7 points. Okay, so I'm going to walk through this because I know some people are still struggling with this. The wind is crazy outside. So please pay attention. The first point I plotted says 14, 2.8. So I go to 14 on my x-axis, and 14 is between 12 and 15, but make sure you put it a little closer to the 15, not the 12, right? 14 is closer. And then 2.8 is closer to 3 than 2. So notice where my point is, okay? I'll zoom in a little bit even. Okay, it's closer to the 14 and then closer to the 3 because, sorry, closer to the 15 and closer to the 3 because it's 14, 2.8. Okay. The next one said, I'm just scrolling back up so you can see, said 24. So again, I go over to 20 on my axis, which will be closer to the 21, and then up to 4, which is at a nice interval. Then we had 25, 5. So 25 is just past the 24, but up to the 5. And look at my points so far. Is it looking good, what I've done? Yeah, because I could take a ruler and connect those, right? So then I'm going to finish off right now. So I know it's going to make you a little sick looking, but I'm going to keep scrolling back and forth. 36 and 720. So 36 is exactly here, and 720 is about a quarter of the way up. And that's still looking good, right? Look at all 4 of my points. They are making a linear graph. And we have 48. So 40 is just past the 39 and up to 8. Still looking good, right? Everything is nice and linear. 45, 9. So 45 This one will be nice because it's on both the, 45 and 9. It's right at an intersection. Still looking good. All those points are nice and linear. And then 60, 12. So 60 is at the end and 12 is up top. So here's what I'm saying, guys, is do not do the following. I'm going to use orange. Do not do this. I don't want to see this. I'm seeing stuff like that handed in. No. Okay? We don't want to do that. We want to take out our, like I said, a ruler, your folder, anything, and line it up nicely so that when you connect those, it actually makes a straight line. Now, I can't use a ruler when I'm on the screen, please understand. So mine isn't going to be perfect, but I'm going to do my best. But you guys do have access to that. And I can go all the way down to 0 because if I have a bill of 0, what's my tip going to be? 0, right? So I know I could go all the way to 0. Any questions? Okay, as I've said, 75% of you guys have been cruising with this. You've got this down. You understand where all your labels come from. You understand how to plot, and you're doing a great job. But we're going to keep on practicing and reiterating it for other folks. Alrighty, so I'm going to let you guys work on 4, 5, and 6 right now, okay? And give you, 3-4 minutes to try those, and then we're going to check those answers. If you finish 4, 5, and 6, okay, then you may go ahead and work on the rest of the solving page below, okay? We're going to do some of those together. But everybody first, 4, 5, and 6, I want to go over those, and then we'll finish off with the last page. Okay, go ahead. 3 minutes to do 4, 5, and 6. Let's look at 4. So no matter where you are right now, everybody go back to number 4, okay, so that you make sure you have the correct thing. If yours is wrong, you need to cross it off and write the correct thing, okay? I'm just seeing so many times where we write the right answers, then people are continuing to submit incorrect answers. So this is asking us to say that if X represents the bill and Y the tip, which is what we have been using, write an equation for Y in terms of X. Does anyone know what that equation is going to be? You have 2 ways to getting it. Our first way is to use the proportion we've been using, right? So we've been using that tip over bill equals 20 over 100. Would everybody agree with me? Okay, but they're not saying have the words tip and bill. They're saying put an X where you see bill and a Y where you see tip. So I'm going to do that instead. So I'm going to have Y over X equals 20 over 100. Let tip be Y and bill be X. However, and some of you guys left something like this on your test. Remember, we weren't doing tip and bill on the test, but you left a proportion. That's a start, but that's not the final answer because we want to write an equation for Y. What that means is solve for Y. So I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to have Y times 100 is 100Y equals X times 20 is 20X. And now I'm going to get Y alone. How do I get Y alone? Divide by 100. So I get Y equals 20X over 100. Now, everybody do me a favor. Scroll back to number 1. Or flip. You have the paper. Sorry, I'm scrolling. You flip. Flip to number 1 and look at where it says expression. What did you write in that Y column for the expression? Someone tell me. So I'm going to scroll. Look at number 1, question 1. Under expression, what did we put in the Y column?
Dollars.
Yep, but for expression, we did 20 over 100x. And look at that. Okay, I'm going to highlight with a different color, with yellow. I'm saying this is my y column, and I said it's equaling 20 over 100x. And look at what we just did. We said y equals 20 over 100x. So if your expression in the columns was correct, your equation just comes right from that. But remember, an equation has that y equal sign. Okay? All right, on to the next part, independent variable. Again, don't tell me independent is x. You're right, independent is the x, but what is our x here, everybody? And guys, this is where I'm getting a little bit frustrated, because if we can't give this answer, then like the common sense of just reading directions isn't there, and you should all be able to. If you know, and I know all of you do know, that independent means x, look it up above at number 4. What are they telling you x should be? The bill. And what did we say the x-axis should be? The bill. And what did we say x should be in my charts? Bill. It's written 4 different times. So that's what I'm saying is we need to be getting this right on our tests. And most of you are, but it's written so many times there, and the answers are right in front of us. So the independent variable, and I'm writing in a sentence, everybody, is the bill. And the units is dollars. Do not say the independent is X, which is the bill. That's still not enough. You haven't given me the units, which is dollars, okay? So you could say the independent is X, which is the bill in dollars. And the dependent variable is the tip, again, in dollars. What is the constant? Is there one? What did we use the whole time in this problem?
20%.
Exactly, the 20% or the 20 over 100. So the constant, and you could have given me 2 answers, but the constant is the ratio of 20 over 100, which represents the percent. Okay, it's not representing the tip itself. It's not representing the bill itself. It's representing the percent of the tip. Any questions? So if we're continuing to do problems like this, but just the values are different, you're still going to have, but we're talking about tip and bill, it's still similar answers, okay? All right, the last thing before I let you sort of continue to work and then we go to lunch and you finish is I want us to do one of these from 7, 8, and 9. So we're going to do 7. And it's saying state if each pair of ratios forms a proportion. What is a proportion? When 2 ratios are equal to each other. So what are we going to do? Does anyone know how to determine if 2 ratios are actually equal to each other? And stay with me even if the bell rings.
Multiply and divide.
Sorry, say that again, Max? I think you were the one that said that. What did you say? Thought someone said it. Cross multiply and divide. So what we're going to say is if I cross multiply 4 times 6, what's 4 times 6? 24. We're asking, is that, we don't know yet, so notice my question mark above the equal sign, is that equal to 2 times 20. What's 2 times 20? Are those equal statements? No. So does the pair form a proportion? No. So not a proportion, because this was false. If I cross multiply and I get a true statement, then it is a proportion. Okay? So you are working on the last, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, the last 6 problems before lunch. And then once you come back from lunch, you're going to obviously finish those problems and we will check your answers. Sound good? Have a good lunch, guys.